In the wet edge of the marsh, the rhinoceros was not dealing with flies, and it was not fighting a predator. It was carrying leeches. Dark, wet bodies clung across the lower neck, chest folds, shoulders, belly, and inner legs. Some were small and newly attached. Others had already swollen after feeding. The heaviest clusters were packed into folds of skin where moisture stayed longer, especially around the base of the ear, beneath the jaw, and along the deep folds of the neck. For a giant animal, they were small, but the irritation was constant. The rhino stood in shallow mud, heavy and still, breathing slowly. Its skin twitched in short waves. One ear flicked, then the other. It could shake, it could step, and it could smear mud over its body, but many of the leeches remained fixed in the folds. Then the birds arrived. A few cattle egrets had already been feeding nearby, walking through the wet mud and marsh grass, searching for beetles, larvae, and tiny animals disturbed by the water's edge. Food was available here, but it was scattered. Every mouthful had to be found one piece at a time. The rhino changed that. For small opportunistic birds, a large animal in wet ground can become a moving source of concentrated food. Its feet disturb insects. Its body carries parasites. And when it pauses, that food becomes accessible. At first, the egrets kept their distance. They circled the rhino carefully, watching its posture, reading every shift of weight. A rhinoceros does not need to attack to become dangerous. One step is enough. But the rhino remained calm for the moment. That was the opening. One egret moved closer and picked a small exposed leech from the lower side of the neck. It came free quickly. The bird swallowed it at once. Now the opportunity was clear. Soon, the birds were working the outer edges of the infestation, taking smaller leeches from exposed areas along the shoulder and chest. The rhino tolerated them briefly, not because it was cooperating, but because the birds were too small to matter, as long as they stayed within limits. But the richest feeding spot was also the most dangerous one. At the base of the right ear, inside a protected fold, one leech was larger than the rest. Dark, swollen, and deep in the crease, it represented the biggest reward on the animal's body. One focal egret noticed it first. Step by step, the bird advanced up the shoulder, keeping its body low and its footing careful against the rhino's thick hide. The other birds stayed lower, watching closely. If the larger leech came loose and fell, there would be competition immediately. The egret leaned in and gripped the swollen leech with the tip of its bill. It pulled once. The parasite held fast. It adjusted its angle and pulled again, still attached. Leeches anchor themselves with powerful suckers, and in a moist skin fold, they are difficult to remove cleanly. The bird tried a third time. This time the leech began to loosen, but at that exact moment, the rhino reacted. The ear flicked sharply. The head shifted. The neck muscles tightened beneath the skin. The egret lost balance for an instant, and the swollen leech tore free all at once. For a fraction of a second, the bird had it. Then it slipped. The leech dropped from the bill, bounced down the shoulder, and landed in the churned mud below. Both birds lunged toward it, but the rhino was already moving. It lifted its head and shifted forward, forcing the birds to jump back from the rising body. Neither was struck, but by the time they rushed in again, the dropped leech had vanished into the wet mud. The biggest prize was gone. After that, the birds changed strategy. Instead of pushing too close to the ear again, they returned to safer feeding. They took smaller exposed leeches from the outer skin. They searched the mud beside the rhino's feet. They caught tiny invertebrates disturbed by its movement. The rewards were smaller, but the danger was lower. And that is the real pattern here. This is not friendship. It is not rescue. And it is not a coordinated cleaning partnership in the way people sometimes imagine. The birds are feeding. The rhinoceros may receive slight incidental relief when a few leeches are removed, but only a tiny fraction of the infestation disappears. Most of the parasites remain attached, especially in the deepest folds. In marshy habitats, large mammals often create opportunity simply by existing in the right place. Their movements disturb prey. Their skin offers shelter to parasites, and opportunistic birds learn to exploit both. For the egret, the riskiest place held the richest reward. For the rhino, the irritation was far from over. And in the wet mud of the marsh, the feeding would continue only as long as the giant allowed it.